Cross-examination by Max Schardt. And a squeak.
Detective Leonpacher, good afternoon now.
Good afternoon.
Max Schardt, we've met before, but Max Schardt, I represent Shannon Stillwell, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. I just want to ask you first about what we talked about first in direct, talking about the downloads of the phone. We talked about you were able to find searches on a phone that you download or extract the data from, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I should say I didn't find searches because I didn't sift through the data, but I'm aware of there being some links associated with searches.
So let me get this clear. You extracted information from several phones, including my client's phones, but you did not review any of the downloaded information.
That's correct.
Okay, do you know who reviewed the downloaded information?
I provided all of the extractions to investigator Marissa Viverito, who I believe conducted thorough reviews of the data.
Okay.
Bolstering.
Now, it seems to me that your role now in law enforcement focuses a lot on cell phones, correct?
Yes and no. I actually, in my role now with the FBI, I expect that I'll be spending a lot more time working with cell phone records from providers and less time working in mobile device forensics. So I'm transitioning now. But yes, over the past several years, I've been working a lot with mobile device forensics.
You were once a homicide investigator, though, correct?
Up until about 3 weeks ago, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, as a homicide investigator, if you see a search in a phone, is there some information you'd want to know? Let me back that up. You would want to know when that search was made, correct?
Yes.
And now let me be clear, because on direct, you did say a few things. It could be when a search shows up with keywords, it could be someone clicking on a link sent by someone else, right?
Yes.
It could be someone searching in their phone themselves, correct?
Yes.
And it could be someone else utilizing a device, right? Just because it's someone's device doesn't mean they were the ones utilizing it at that time, correct?
Yes, I wouldn't count that as a third option because as a forensic examiner, I'd only be concerned about what the phone did. So no matter who's holding the phone when it did what it did, it's only one of the two, right? The phone navigated to a URL that resulted in search results from, say, Google, regardless of who's holding it.
Okay, now with all those qualifiers aside, as an investigator, if you saw search results in a phone of a person of interest, you would want to know what date that search was allegedly done, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You would want to know, if you were investigating a case with such a cell phone, you would want to know if on that date of that search, other people had already alerted the owner of the phone of the fact that something had occurred at an address, correct?
I would take that into consideration in my examination of the results, yes.
So, for instance, if the search was homicide or shooting, Smith Street X Bell Street, corner of Smith and Bell, you would want to know if the person that owns this phone or may have been using this phone is just searching that on them by themselves with no prompting, or if someone else has already alerted them to a fact that a shooting had occurred at that address. That would be an important fact to know as an investigator, wouldn't it?
It would be important, an important consideration in how I reviewed the data, yes.
Okay, and you'd also want to know, if the person searched these terms, hours after an event or days after an event, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you'd want to know if there was press coverage about this event prior to the person searching.
Objection, Your Honor. Press conference relevance.
Press coverage.
Overruled.
Yes, and I'll add to explain my answer. It's not uncommon in cases of, I've worked homicides and I've been on our complex case squad in homicides. So I've worked a lot of violent crime cases, even those that haven't been homicides.
I'm going to object as non-responsive if we're going to get into what usually happens.
Not to let him explain his answer.
Okay, thank you.
And it's not uncommon that there is media coverage of violent crime incidents when I'm conducting an investigation into such an incident. And it's not uncommon for those searches to be related to that media coverage of that incident.
Right. Okay, so, but certainly there's a difference between someone, a suspect searching unknown keywords that no one else would know except them versus searching keywords after there's been media coverage, correct?
That's difficult for me to answer in the hypothetical because oftentimes as an investigator conducting this type of search of a forensic analysis of a phone, I don't know what someone knows about the incident or how many people know it, especially if it's an incident that I suspect multiple people were involved in.
Well, what if in that phone there was actual messages from other people alerting that person to the event? Would that give you insight as to whether they knew about the event?
The person conducting the search?
Yes. If other people had told them,
Yep.
texted them,
Yep.
sent them news articles in their phone.
Yes and no. Yes, and that it would give me insight that there's evidence in the phone of the person operating the phone likely receiving information in that text message that, hey, this incident occurred. But no, in that I've worked many homicide cases where I see people that that I did charge with participation in a murder that were receiving notifications from other people, hey, did you hear about this incident? So one may have nothing to do with the other, but one could have something to do with the other.
It could be important.
I would take it into consideration, yes, that absolutely be a part of my consideration in examining the phone.
As a homicide investigator, you would take it into consideration whether someone told the owner of the phone about specifics of that event before they typed in the keywords.
Yes.
Okay. And do you know what ATL Scoop is?
Yes.
Okay, ATL Scoop gives updates or really quick news about events around Atlanta, correct?
Yes, largely the reposting of individual Instagram users' coverage of events around Atlanta. It's a big reposting site typically.
Did ATL Scoop, to your understanding and knowledge of this case, Shamal Drink's shooting, did ATL Scoop have updates being sent throughout Atlanta within hours of the shooting?
I don't know.
Objection, Your Honor. It's assuming facts.
Okay, well, he said he doesn't know anything.
If you know.
I don't know. I honestly know very little about this case other than I worked next to the detective that was the lead detective, Al Hogan. But I know very little about the circumstances of this
Do you
case.
know if my client's girlfriend reached out to him within hours of the shooting just to check if he was okay and alerted to him about the shooting?
Objection, Your Honor. Lack of foundation and assuming facts not in the
Sustained.
Do you know if my client's grandmother did the same?
same objection.
Sustained.
Okay, so you didn't review the phone, so you don't know any of these answers that could add context to any searches.
From the phone or my knowledge of just being in the homicide unit next to the lead detective, no, I still don't know the answer.
Okay, great. Now, let's turn the page to the search warrant on 2830 Waters Road. Okay, is that okay? The execution of the search warrant.
Yes, sir.
All right, awesome. Now that happened on, there was, to your understanding, there was a shooting in the morning hours, March 16th going into March 17th of 2022 at that address, correct?
Yes. Again, I know very little about the other shooting as well. I just went to assist in the execution of the search warrant, so I don't know very many case details about the other shooting, but it is my understanding that, yes, there was another shooting that was just before this incident.
And you observed, you observed holes in the house, you observed holes in vehicles that were parked in yard, et cetera, correct?
Yes.
All right. Do you know how many people were living at 2830 Waters Road at the time that you executed the search warrant?
No.
Do you know how many people frequent that address, were frequenting that address in March of 2022?
No, any evidence of that would have been on that video surveillance system that was no longer present when I executed the search warrant.
Do you know of who the registered owner of that address is?
No.
Okay. Now, I wanted to just clarify a few things about your direct testimony. First of all, Ms. Knight or Mr. Atkins, could you kindly display 318 Victor Victor? Now, what time did you execute this search warrant? Like when we saw that video
Here we
that
go.
you made at 2830, what time of the day was that?
I don't recall, but I'll add that I often do, and I believe I may have in this case. When I start recording a video, I verbally say aloud the date and time that I begin the recording of the video. And I know that the audio is not included in this published version of this video, but I'd have to refer to that to tell you the exact
That's
time.
fine. Do you have an approximate time? I'm not going to hold. Okay, it's fine.
Sorry, I don't. Yeah.
Light hours.
Daylight, yes.
Okay. All right. You are aware that on March 17th, around the same time that you were conducting the search warrant at 2830 Waters Road, my client was being arrested at Meadowlark Drive in a white a white Audi with Maryland plates with tinted windows. You're aware of that?
No.
Okay.
If I was back then, I don't have any recollection of it now because I wasn't involved in that investigation.
All right. Well, I want to be very clear about a few things. 318, okay, we see a blue car, correct?
You're talking about the vehicle that's here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Blue car. It is an Audi.
Yes.
Okay. And you found various things in the car, and we're going to get to that in a second. You are not suggesting that this is the white Audi with tinted windows that was rented to Shannon Stillwell, are you?
I have no idea. I don't know anything about that.
Okay. All right. This pink hat, 323 Victor Victor, if you would, Ms. Knight. Thank you. See that pink hat? And I think there's a better picture somewhere in here, but we're talking, and you have it in front of you.
Yes, it's right here.
Okay, that pink hat that's in that envelope. You aware that Mr. Stillwell was arrested on the same day in the white Audi wearing a pink hat?
2 pink
No.
hats.
Okay. This pink hat would not have been something that you took from the scene and then somehow met up with Shannon Stillwell and gave it to him to wear for when he would be arrested, is it?
No.
Okay, so this is a completely separate pink hat. Is that correct?
Wow.
I don't know when Mr. Stillwell was arrested or what the circumstances were, what time that was, if it was before or after the execution of this warrant. If I accept what you're telling me as fact, then sure, he was arrested before with a pink hat, but I don't know. I just know that This hat
Listen to
was
him.
recovered in this car on March 17th. I put it in this envelope, sealed it, and put my initials on it, and that's the last time I saw it before today.
Okay, all right, well, I think that answers the question. Now, in this car, you also found a gun, a very large gun. And that's what's in front of you on that table, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what
Well,
kind of gun?
no, that's the gun that went back to the ATF.
You're right. Thank you for
stolen
that
firearm.
correction. And what type of gun was that?
That was it was a Ruger AR 5.56.
Okay. And that gun was found in this blue Audi, and it was also inside the blue Audi was a license in the name of Eric Moore.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. And Eric Moore, did you investigate further into who Eric Moore was?
I believe I ran Eric Moore's driver's license at some point to identify who he was, but no, I didn't conduct any follow-up investigation into that aspect of the processing of this vehicle or its contents.
Okay. Ms. Knight, if you could put up 319 Victor, please.
Body is hunched down over here.
So that's the gun that was found in the blue Audi, correct?
Yes.
All right. Do you have any evidence that Mr. Stillwell's fingerprints are on that gun?
I don't physically have any evidence of that. I believe the gun was taken by the crime scene technicians for additional processing. The results of that I'm unfamiliar
Okay.
with.
Do you have any evidence that Mr. Stillwell's DNA is on that gun?
Not me. No, I believe the guns were processed for additional evidence, but to what extent and what those results are, I don't know. I don't have that evidence.
Schardt knows.
I don't want to speak on behalf of the police department to say that the police department or the Georgia Bureau of Investigation does or does not. Kevin Leonpacher doesn't have DNA results.
Anyone?
You just said like 10 minutes ago, you bolstered Viverito's testimony. You said that you are sure she did a thorough investigation. And now look at your walk back. Look at you.
Comes from the crime lab. I'm going to make sure I ask them the same questions. I'm just
Yes,
asking
sir.
you.
Yep.
So you don't have any evidence that Mr. Stillwell has ever touched this gun?
No, I don't. No.
Okay. All right. And let me ask you this. This gun, are you aware that Mr. Drinks, deceased Mr. Drinks, from the 3/14/2022 shooting was shot with .40 caliber ammunition?
I'm unfamiliar with that.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Does this gun shoot .40 caliber ammunition?
No.
All right. Excellent. Miss Knight, if you could help me out and pull up 328 VV. Definitely further down. It's the second gun. No, up. There we go. Thank you. All right. This is the second gun that you collected at 2830 Waters Road, correct?
Yes.
And that was in the mud. This gun was in the mud by a Jeep Liberty.
Yes.
Okay. Again, I'm going to ask you, any DNA or fingerprints that you're aware of that link to Shannon Stillwell?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And how about that Jeep Liberty? Are you aware of any links that would link or connect Mr. Stillwell to that Jeep Liberty?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So, and let me ask you about, what type of gun is this?
It's a 7.62, I believe, it's a Romarm Cougar 7.62. The model is M10-762P. It's an AK-47 type firearm with a drum magazine.
And it shoots 7.62 bullet or caliber bullets?
Yes,
Okay. It does not shoot 40 caliber bullets, does it?
correct.
All right, excellent. And Ms. Knight, if you could, 330 Victor Victor. Now, this gun was actually found in the house at 2830 Waters Road?
Yes,
Okay. And any DNA or fingerprints that you're aware of that link this gun to Shannon Stillwell?
I have no knowledge of that.
Okay. And what type of gun is this?
This is a Taurus G3 9mm pistol.
9 millimeter.
Yes,
Does this gun shoot 40 caliber bullets?
no.
Were you involved in the search warrant of 855 Allison Way,
No,
the residence of Jeffrey Williams?
no.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Couple more questions. A 5.7 by 28 an FN gun, a 5.7. Would that shoot 40 caliber bullets?
I would not expect it to, no.
Okay.
I'm not a firearms expert or a ballistics expert.
Right.
But no, I would not expect, especially given those cartridge cases, the 5.7 cartridge cases that we recovered, or the one cartridge case I recovered, it was an elongated cartridge case versus a 40 caliber is much shorter.
And an FNX 45, FNX 45, would that shoot 40 caliber bullets?
I don't know what an FNX 4.5 is.
Okay. Let me just ask you this, would a 45 caliber handgun shoot 40 caliber bullets?
I would not expect it to.
Okay.
I suppose under like a perfect set of circumstances, you might be able to put a 40 caliber cartridge in a 45 caliber firearm, and it may, under the right set of circumstances, a firing pin might strike it in the right place, but I wouldn't suggest it, nor would I overtly expect it to fire that round.
At least not correctly.
Not correctly. I think it's a bad idea to try.
Yeah. Okay. Is it fair to say that you don't have any information about any guns ballistically matching the shooting of Chamel drinks?
If I ever came across any information about any ballistic matches or NIBIN correlations, I listed some in my report that I wrote following this incident. Whether or not those matched that shooting, I don't recall.
Okay.
And I did not conduct any follow-up investigation into any correlations that were made from anything found at Waters Road or elsewhere.
How about any of these guns matching the January 10, 2015 homicide of Donovan Thomas?
I'm not aware of any, if there were any NIBIN correlations to that incident, I'm unaware of them, and I did not conduct that investigation into the murder of Donovan Thomas.
Okay. One last thing. As part of your involvement in this case, did you ever get a chance to review? I know that we looked at photos from Windsor Street. Did you ever get a chance to review the surveillance video from the FedEx on Windsor Street?
I don't want to misspeak and say that I never saw it because I know, again, Al Hogan sat 2 seats in front of me. It's possible at one point I saw it on his screen, but I have no recollection of ever seeing that video.
Okay. Did you ever speak to any FedEx employees and ask them to just describe what they saw on the video? Okay. All right, thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay. thank you.
Wow.
Any questions? All right, any redirect? All right.
Detective Leonpacher, how many murders have you worked in your experience with Atlanta Police Department Homicide Unit?
I've worked on hundreds of homicides in my tenure with APD Homicide.
How often would you find the homicide suspects, the murder weapon used in the murder?
Overruled.
It was more common to not find the firearm used in the offense. I have recovered weapons used in homicides, but I'd say it's far less common.
And on, do you know why that is?
Sustained.
Detective Leonpacher, on cross, you were asked a lot of questions about searching of a location in a phone. Do you recall that?
Searching a location of a phone?
A suspect searching a specific location in their cell phone.
Yes.
And you were also asked questions about if they were notified or hypothetically what someone knew. Do you remember that?
Yes.
If you had information that a possible homicide suspect was either at or within minutes at the scene and searched that location, how would you take that piece of information?
Sustained.
On cross-examination, do you remember Mr. Schardt asking you about 8 to 10 questions about searching a location of an incident
Yes.
and how that would impact your investigation?
Yes.
With those line of questionings that you remember, how would it impact your calculus if the person that searched the location was on the scene when the murder happened?
I would perceive that as being intelligence gathering to determine what the police knew about the incident through media reporting. And if I obviously knew who my suspect was because I'm searching his or her phone, then I would incorporate that into a series of questions that I might ask that individual given the opportunity to interview them about their search of these items. It's not uncommon in my experience for people that have been determined to be involved in an incident to say that they had no involvement and they weren't there, and that they had little if no knowledge about the incident at all. So whether I confront them with the knowledge of knowing they searched about the incident and probably other evidence that suggests that they may have been at the scene and the duration of time that passed between the incident occurring and when the search occurred would all be things that I'd want to talk to that individual about.
One brief moment, Your Honor. Thank you, Detective Leonpacher. No
Let's
further
go
redirect
recross.
by the state, Your Honor.
I'm glad you answered that last question. Said if you had a suspect that said they had no involvement and were not there, you'd think that's important.
Yes.
What about a suspect that says, I have no involvement, but yes, I was there. I was there. What if you have him on tape at a BP, crystal clear, wearing distinctive clothes, and he's not denying he's there? Would you make sure that you watch the surveillance video of the killing pretty darn carefully?
Yes, among other things, given that assertion made by that person, there's additional things that I would do as well.
You wouldn't just ask someone that works for a business with no law enforcement training, hey, tell me what seems to be going on your videotape that you have, would you? You would want to watch it for yourself, wouldn't you?
Yes.
You'd want to watch it several times for yourself, wouldn't you?
Probably yes.
You'd want to look for details that are important in that videotape, wouldn't you?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right. Let's take our lunch break. Thank you, Detective. You are excused.
Wow.